Linda's the, okay. Hold on, I'll just continue. Hi, I'd like to introduce you to Linda now. So Linda is our New South Wales judge coordinator and coordinates all the judging courses. She is a fantastic presenter and she delivers most of our advanced tumbling and spring modules plus the WAG advanced parts of the WAG advanced course. She also coaches at Sydney Academy where she coaches the higher levels, and she's had quite a few people of athletes that have represented New South Wales. So without any further ado, I'd like to hand over to Linda. Hi, Lynn.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's okay. I can see lots of faces. If you can have your camera on, that'd be good. If not, don't stress. You can leave yourself with no camera on, no problem. I think there's a few people having internet issues, but we're going to get underway here. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, first of all, to all the people who also attended last week, which was last Tuesday. And welcome also to those who didn't do last week and are just new with us today. So we'll get the PowerPoint up on the screen. Sarah, if you can.
Yeah, just sharing my screen now.
I think there's still a few people too. I can see a few people trying to connect.
Yeah, no problems. I'll just start the presentation and I should be able to get everyone admitted in as well.
Just keep letting everyone in, because I can see at the end there's a few trying to connect, and someone was in the chat saying she had no sound, so she's going to go in and out.
Yeah, no problems.
Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the second session of level 3 and 4 workshop coach education series. So we're going to do today session 2, which is vault and bars. We're also going to do some physical prep. So hopefully everybody gets something out of today. Please stop me anytime if you have a question, or even if you have a comment, something that works for you that you might like to share. It's a good thing for us all to be doing these sessions because we can all share information out of them. So Sarah, is that on presentation mode? Doesn't look like.
Yeah, it's all done now. Sorry, I was just trying to get everyone else added in. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yep, perfect. Okay, so here we go. Welcome, team. We're going to look at vault and bars programs. We are going to include some drills and circuits that are suited to level 3 and 4, plus we're going to do some upper and mid body conditioning. And we're going to do lower conditioning and flexibility, before anyone asks me, in the next session. As mentioned in session 1, most level 3 and 4 athletes have kind of come through a program where they've spent at least 12 months in the gym. Some clubs do 12 months at level 1 and then 12 months at level 2, and some clubs obviously do 12 months and cover level 1 and 2, which is our foundation levels part of our pyramid. So most kids should have some basic fundamentals to fall back on. When we're developing level 3 and 4 programs, I don't know where all of you start, but I start with what have we got? What age are the children? What level are they? How many hours per week? As I said in the last session, most kids, they train at level 3 and 4, between 4 and 12 hours a week. So some level 3 programs, they're only doing 4 hours a week, usually 2 times 2-hour sessions. And at level 4, they jump to the 3rd day. What apparatus rotations have we got and how long have we got at each rotation? Some rotations are 30 minutes, some clubs put 45-minute rotations, depending on the session length, I guess. And what equipment have we got? We might not have a couple of sets of bars and a beam area to work with, but we may have some wall bars, or we may have some balls, or we might have some bands. So there is different things that we can use at our rotations. Remember too, it takes a few weeks when you first get your squad to learn the strengths and weaknesses. So don't panic if you need to spend I usually spend between 3 and 6 weeks of term 1 or part of the January holidays to try and work out what strengths and weaknesses we've got. Some kids are flexible, some kids are strong, some kids are strong upper body but weaker in the mid body. Some kids have really got a good mid body but are weaker in the upper body. So you've just got to kind of try and work out where they're at and how to make your program work for them. But don't be worried about taking some time to assess and see where they're at. So basically when I coach level 3 and 4, I break it into my 10-week program into 3 parts. I do weeks 1 to 3, then I do weeks 4 to 6, then I do weeks 7 to 10. Weeks 1 to 3, I generally do basics, very good basics. And those basics are, in my opinion, needed at that point, but those basics are also very much you trying to work out who's where, who's got what, who's done some development in that area. Because remember, when kids come from level 1 and 2 or have come from foundation levels, they may have had a few different coaches, and those coaches have different strengths and weaknesses as well. So when you've got them at level 3 or you get them at level 4, or whether you've carried them through level 1 and 2 and into your program now at 3 and 4, they will all have developed some weaknesses. They will all have developed some strengths and be doing things differently. So take a little bit of time. That's why I always leave the first 3 weeks just to kind of work that out and do some basics. And then I move on from there and I break it into weeks 4 to 6 and 7 to 10. So we'll move to the next page and I'll show you more of what I'm talking about. So the next page is starting with Vault. We've got a level 3 Vault program here that I would be running if it was my program. As you can see at the top, it's term 1. It's week 1 to 3. So remember, these little level 3s that are in this squad at term 1, weeks 1 to 3 are very much still level 2s. They've come from not very many hours. They've probably had a small jump in hours. So they're going to be, you know, a little bit all over the place in terms of they've probably had January school holidays off, or they've gone away, or they've been in the gym and done some holiday camps. So they're going to be a little bit all over the place. So weeks 1 to 3, I kind of just measure it out a little bit and see where we're at. So I break my Vault programming into 3 areas: the running part of the program, the board work, which can include board work with a short run, board work off a box, board work with a long run, but I break it down into that area, and then a shaping portion, which is essentially the entry of the Vault, the forward entry of the Vault. So we're going to go with 30-minute rotation time. I have coached level 3 and 4 squads that haven't had 30 minutes. They've only had 20 or 25 minutes. But for the most part, I think most programs at level 3 and 4 would probably have 30 minutes at their disposal. Most programs also have obviously a dedicated area to Vault. Some gyms have 2 different Vault areas. They might have one Vault area for senior kids with a 25-meter run. Some gyms have run using the floor. Some kids some programs have a shorter run of between 10 to 15 meters when it comes to the level 3s and 4s. So depending on what you've got is what you're going to be able to implement into your program. So I would start with 5 minutes on running drills. Now, if any of you have ever researched running drills, when you type that into YouTube or Google, 20 million things come up. So you just need to really pick what works for you. I have 4 drills that work for me. They've always worked for me and I continue to use them. I use them through level 3 to level 7. And I have altered in the past. I have tried a few different ones and I've been to some clinics and done, you know, presented some module 1s and I've seen some different ideas and I have tried to implement them as well. But generally the running part of your Vault program, it really needs to be kept to a small time frame, I think, usually 5 to 8 minutes. I've put 5 minutes here just because I've put some board work and some shaping at the end, but generally try and keep your running drills. Pick the ones that you like, pick the ones that will work for the age group that you've got and the space that you've got, and then go from there. So we do marching, which is starting at the end of the Vault run with their arms in a marching position and their knees coming up in front of them. Slow and fast seated arm swings. They're sitting down on their bottom with their legs out in front of them. I usually sit them all along the running mat there and I just get them to swing their arms. So just using their arms, just keeping their elbows in, keeping their hands in a straight line. We do that slowly where we emphasize the back swing of the arm movement when kids run. Because a lot of kids run, they'll bend their arm at a right angle when we've got their arm in front of them, but then to take their arm backwards, they'll straighten their arm out. So we sit and we look at the arm swing going backwards and we hold that position and then we switch to the other arm and then we do that slowly and then we do that fast as well, and they have to think about keeping their elbow alongside their body. And then we do some sprints. So we line up at the end of the vault strip, regardless of how long the vault strip is. I stand them on a certain line. I tell them all where they've got to start. They put their feet together, rise up onto their toes. And when I say go, they run and head towards the board or head towards the crash mats. I would say when you're doing sprints, especially with little kids, they think about how fast they're going. They don't think about what's in front of them. So I would say with little kids, make sure you've got something soft, a wedge or a mat or something, so they don't hurt themselves when they get to the end of their run. Ankle bounces in my circuit. So when I run the vault, we have an area at Sydney Academy, which is the downstairs vault. We've got 2 vaulting areas. We've got a downstairs vault for level 3 to 5 vaulters and an upstairs vault for level 6 to 10. Get them to do ankle bounces. So we've got like a vault run, and then next to the vault run coming back, we've got like a long floor strip that is sprung. So sometimes I utilize that floor strip, so they'll run down the running mat, do what I've asked them to do, and then use that floor strip as circuit ideas, and I just change the circuit ideas as we go. So ankle bounces with foam above their head, doesn't have to be foam, can be a pair of socks, can be their gloves from bars, can be a beanbag, can be a hoop, can be whatever you want it to be, but arms straight above their head with their foam held above their head. And ankle bounces meaning a rigid body, a tight body, no movement through the hips, no bending at the knees, just pushing through their feet and learning to use their feet and hold their thighs and their bottom quite tight. Then we move on to the board work, which we do some ankle bounces holding the foam again. So that's just on the board though. Board drills, I do 2 to 3 steps entry, sometimes a little bit more if I've got kids who are older. They do 2 to 3 steps. They hit the board with their arm down and they jump up off the board, lifting their arms as they go, but they stay on the board. That's what I call a board drill. I'm sure we've all got different names for it. And then I'll change the circuit drill to the hurdle drill with their arm circle. So that's just standing, or they can do some steps into it if you need them to. They stand and then they punch on into a hoop with their arms doing a circle. So as they hit the floor in the hoop or on the sticky dot, some of us have got those little Velcro dots. As they hit the floor, I get their arms down, and as they leave the floor, their arms go up. So same for a board. Arms are down on the board, arms rise as you leave the board. So you can put a few of those along there, particularly if they're sticky dots. They can kind of come along, maybe put 2 or 3 stations along, and they can do a hurdle drill on each. And then when I start at the very, very early part of the year or the term, sometimes I go back to this at the start of the term, even if it's not term 1. I do a lot of work with the box and the tramp. I find that kids at level 1 to 3, they struggle a little bit with aerial awareness. They struggle with hands on the mat at the same time as the heel drive, working the handstand. But I also know that kids at that age, kids at that level sometimes can be young or not have done a lot of gymnastics or not be particularly conditioned. So sometimes it's difficult for them to be able to get to a straight body. We always see those vaults that are got the 90-degree pike or kids that arch or kids that kind of roll over. And I find that the box, the tramp and 2 crash mats for level 3 works really, really well. They understand then how to drive their heels as they come from the trampoline and hit the mat into a handstand. They tend to understand that much better, and it's much safer and gives them a little bit more spring if it's a trampoline. So that's why I like that there. I also make sure that coming back, I do some kind of body tension in the early part of the program, in the early part of the term. So I've got some back sleeping there across boxes. Obviously, that doesn't have to be across boxes. It can be on the floor. It can be with partners. You could have someone counting and someone doing the sleeping, and then they switch over. So you can kind of make that as serious or as fun as you'd like. But basically, that's what I would do for level 3, because in my mind, level 3s at term 1, week 1, they're still very much level 2. So they wouldn't have done a lot of gymnastics. They wouldn't have had a lot of running drills and a lot of contact with the board. So that's kind of where I start, very basic from there. So if we move to the next slide, thank you, Sarah, and we've got weeks 4 to 6. So I just kind of look at my program at that point and I say, okay, we need to step things up. But we need to know that there's going to be no magic step between week 3 and week 4 that's going to all of a sudden make things, that we can do much harder things. So I just generally gradually increase. So I add in a running drill each week until I've got to the 4 running drills that I like. So you'll see there up in that running drill box where it says description, I've added in high knees. So high knees is just kids lining up at the end of the mat with their arms out in front of them. We call them zombie runs in the gym. Arms out in front of them, arms out like at shoulder height in front of them. And I get them to link their hands, and then they run down the mat with their knees coming up higher than their belly buttons. We're looking just for like a fast pace off the floor, feet moving quickly off the floor. And then I go with the sprints again. So yes, I'm adding a drill, but I'm still keeping it in, trying to keep it in within the 5 to 8 minute time frame there. We still do the slow and fast seated arms just because I like the muscle memory that creates. I like the reinforcement that creates. I find that it's really good for kids to think about. If you only do it in week 1, 2, and 3, and then you leave it out for week 4, 5, and 6, and then you put it back in at week 7, kids have forgotten that muscle memory. So I like leaving that in there, and I like them thinking about the arm going backwards. They always struggle with the arm going backwards. They can see the arm in front of them, but they can't see the arm going behind them. So I really like that elbow high at the back. Then front support shrugs, hands on a raised surface. So that can be a board, like in the picture there, one of those boards. Do front support with the hands at the top of the board, feet at the bottom of the board, or it can be a box, or it can be something slightly raised, or you can do it on the floor. So that's just in a front support shape, very tight body, chest in, hips flat, head neutral, and just shrugging the shoulders, just to kind of help with that pop action that they're going to be getting when they actually do these vaults. So it does need to be watched though, because they will of course think that you're not watching and go over there and just do it 100 million times faster than it should be done. So it will need to be watched and maintained. And I always kind of pick out a little demonstrator and ask her to demonstrate as well. Then with the board work, I always do the board drills. You'll notice I haven't put any numbers in here either. So just because when they're little and they're level 3, or when they're new to level 3, but not little, they can be older kids, I just try and work out the number according to when I see it improving. So in the first week, I might do 10, or the first 3 weeks, I might do 10 board drills or 8 board drills or 6 board drills. And then if I notice it's getting, they're understanding the arm action and they're understanding the body tension, I can reduce the number and move on to the next thing faster. But if they're struggling just with that early board drill, I kind of do more of that and do less of something else so that I can make sure that that's improving each week. Then we would do the boxes, which are both 30 centimeters high. I think most of the little boxes in gyms are probably 25 to 30 centimeters high. I kind of put them end to end like that. And then I put a board in front of those and then a mat in front of that as well. So they're practicing doing a small run onto the board, similar to their board drill, but they're coming off an elevated surface, which is the boxes. And I get them to do jump to handstand by week 4. In the first 3 weeks of the term, I would just do with a straight jump, just so they're understanding the steps and how to get onto the board. I would also very much be looking at making sure the arms are down where I want them and that shoulders are up. A lot of kids lean forward on the board or have a not a tight body when they hit the board. And of course, we all know if you're hitting a board or doing some kind of punch work with a loose body, the energy that you're trying to create gets lost through the floor or lost through the board. So keeping their body tight as they hit the board and then just jumping to a handstand. Now, I would be spotting that one as well, because remember, it's only week 4 of their first term of level 3. So they won't be fabulous at the moment at understanding their aerial awareness and getting their hands on the mat, as well as lifting their feet and thinking about all the other things. So I do spot that one. So they would do a short run, punch on the board correctly, and then jump to a handstand. And most of this stage, week 4, 5, and 6, you're doing a little bit of the heel drive for them. You're doing a little bit of heel lift for them, and then making sure when they hit the mat that they're very, very tight and have control of what their handstand looks like. As the circuit, I will change the circuit again to Angry Cat mini tramp bouncer. So that's with the mini tramp kind of angled down a hill and probably a mat or a box in front of the tramp with their hands on the tramp and knees on the box or the mat, and just bouncing with their nice straight arms, using their shoulders and using their wrists as well. I think a lot of kids and a lot of programs underestimate wrist push through the wrist, which gives that last little push when you tumble and when you vault. I think that's probably, yeah, something that's underestimated. And mini tramp really good because it's not going to put too much force on their wrists or their elbows. So if you don't have a mini tramp and you have like a double mini tramp or a tumble tramp, you can also do it on there. But most gyms have got a little mini tramp or one of those little tiny tramps lying around. If it's an older tramp, you can put a scatter mat over it. Some of the padding started to deteriorate and you want to make sure it's safe. Just put a little beam mat over it or a scatter mat, and then just make sure arms are straight and chest is really round. And I have to monitor that one because quite often I'll find them having a grand old time on the mini tramp and their chest's out and not doing what I want it to do. So I do monitor that one pretty closely. And then with shaping, I go back to the box tramp again. We do it on 60 centimeters. I start with straight jumps just so that I can make sure that their steps and their jump are correct. And I also start with straight jumps because it forces them to have their shoulders upright. Because in their mind, they're thinking of, got to do a handstand, got to get my hands down, got to go down, got to lean forward on the board, got to go down, got to get my hands down. Whereas you kind of want the opposite. You want them upright on the punch and then, or the jump, and then you want them to have that aerial awareness and that correct lever action to get them to the handstand. So I start with straight jumps, and then I do 2 crash mats, handstand, flat back. And at week 4, not going to be pretty. You need to be prepared. It's not going to look pretty. They're going to work out their aerial awareness. They're going to work out the body tension side of it. They've got to work out the arm circle that you've told them to do. But numbers in this area will significantly increase, you know, how it's going to improve. So, you know, don't be too worried at the moment if it's not looking fabulous. Just let them have a go of tipping upside down. I always say to tip upside down quickly, hands on the mat quickly, but sometimes when you say that, they confuse that then and then lean forward on the tramp. So it takes a little bit of time. And then for the circuit drill, we've got the angled handstand against the wedge. So that I would do chest to the wedge initially, just to make sure that they understand the alignment. So stand the wedge up against a wall, hands in very close to the wedge, climb their legs up the wall, chest to the wall, and make sure they're really tight. The only thing you'll probably need to monitor there is all body parts need to be touching the wedge. And for some reason, they love to have everything touching the wedge, but their hips. The hips need to be flat on the wedge as well. And also making sure their hands are shoulder width. And what they think is shoulder width, remember in the last session we did with handstand, whatever they think is shoulder width, generally not shoulder width. So you will have to make sure they've got their head and their hands in the right spot. Okay, Sarah, let's switch to the next slide.
Linda, we have a question that has come in.
Okay, sorry.
Kim
Yeah,
Ryan.
it's from me, Linda.
Hi, Kim.
Kim from Gymnastics. My question is, with the angry cat drill, would the box or the mat that they're in the angry cat shape on be at the same level of the mini, or would it be slightly higher?
I usually have it at the same height of the lowest point of the mini tramp. So I've seen those tramps, so I think they've got them out at Rudy Hill where the lowest part's kind of on the floor.
Yeah.
If the lowest part is on the floor, I would use just like a little scatter mat, like a little 5 centimeter scatter mat, just so their knees aren't sore, particularly if you're in a vault area and it's not a sprung surface. Yeah. But if it's just a normal mini tramp, I have the box at the same height, so the mini tramp there and the box there, and their knees are on the box and their hands are on the tramp.
Thank you.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you.
So is there any other questions, guys? Just before I move on?
Not at the moment that are coming through. I'll let you know if anything else comes through, but not right now.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Sarah. We can move to the next slide, which is week 7 to 10. So I've done a 10-week program for each level on each apparatus, which should help us with knowing what's coming next. Then we're kind of at the latter end of the term. Now, remember, this is still term 1. This is a term 1 program. So if you're looking at this and you're thinking, oh, goodness, you know, by week 7, 8, 9, and 10, they should be doing that, that, and that. Remember, we're in term 1. Remember the last session we did? We looked at where the events were, and the event placement for level 3 and 4 is very much the end of the year or the last quarter of the year. So what you are doing in term 1 can be a little bit slower, and this is a term 1 program. So by week 7, 8, 9, and 10, I've added in another running drill. You can see there. So we've got the marching. I'm keeping going with my arm movements. I've got my high knees. And then I've got kick behind. So kick behind, they put their hands on their hips, they line up at the end of the vault run, and they've got to kick their bottom and run down. So again, I'm looking for quickness, feet moving off the floor quickly. It takes them a little while to be able to learn these vault drills. So you might be able to keep everything in 5 minutes, maybe do less of one thing and more of something else if they're struggling with coordination, but give them some time to do it and then add one thing in a week so it's nice and slow, or one thing in every 3 weeks as I've got it in here. The circuit drill I would have as an angled handstand, hold 20 seconds, feet pointed on a box or a mat. So when I say angled handstand, if you remember the slide before had the young lady, the young girl coming onto the vault with a nice 45-degree angle, that's our vault contact phase. That's the position we want our body in. We want it in a nice 45-degree angle. So that's what I would create, that circuit drill. I would have their feet on a box, maybe a box tipped up onto its side, a bigger box, or a crash mat, or certainly something that's not going to hurt their toes, because you want their feet pointed. And you want to keep an eye on that drill as well, because quite often they'll stick their head out as they get a little bit tired. And of course, when they stick their head out, the shoulders are going to close and the shaping is going to be compromised. So you do want to keep an eye on that one. Then board drills. And by this time, week 7, week 8, week 9, and week 10, they should have a very good understanding of the arm swing. You might still be struggling a little bit with body tension issues, but they should have an understanding of their position on the board and the arm circle. And then I would do 8 to 10 steps-ish, depending on the area that you've got. You might not have a big giant area, you might have a little area. And I would do some straight jumps onto 2 crash mats. So I do this so that I can pace the run. So we've all got those kids, right, in our gym that run really fast until about halfway down the vault run. Then they almost do 10 little steps on the spot. And then they do a couple of big bounding steps, and then they jump on the board and they've lost all the power and the speed that you wanted them to create. So at this point with level 3 and 4, kind of the end of term 1, I pace their run. So we stand back 8 steps, 10 steps, and I watch their run, and to eliminate eliminate the small steps or the big steps, I get them to either start a bit closer in, take a step forward, or start further back if their steps look like they're, you know, not quite right. So that's the purpose of that one in there. And that one takes a little bit of time. So your board drills is only going to take 2 to 3 minutes of those 10 minutes. And the run and the pacing of the run, I probably spend the remainder of the time on. So while their run's not right, their board angle's not right, their straight jump's not going to be right, their landing's not going to be right. So at that point, you really do need to look at their run. The steps should be the same size, and they should be starting on the same foot in the same place every time they run. And that can take a little bit of time. So that's why I allow weeks 7 to 10 to try and get that under control. And I try and get that under control definitely before I'm going to ask them to do a handstand. With shaping, in the 15 minutes, I'm still with the box and the tramp to make sure they're understanding that aerial awareness. And by this point, they should be starting to get quite straight. The form might not be fabulous at this point because they still haven't done a lot of vaulting. But certainly the box and the tramp is going to contribute to making sure you getting rid of all the piking on, and you can get the head in the right place. And it's a completely safe environment. Stand next to the trampoline, you know where they're going to jump, so you can spot if you need to spot. Just going back a little bit to the board work with the rebound backwards, because I didn't quite cover that. So that is standing on a 30-centimetre box with the board facing them. So they stand on the box with one leg out, they punch on the board upright with the arm circle that you've taught them in the last 6 weeks, and then they bounce backwards onto the board, onto the box. So you need to make sure you've got an eye on the box with that one, preferably a wider box that's not going to wobble if they go off a bit offline a little bit, or a box. I've seen some boxes that Velcro down onto mats, or you might need to hold the box yourself. So standing on the box, punch on the board is facing them, so the board is looking at them as they're standing on the box, punch forward, arm circle, and land back on the 30-centimetre box. That's what that one is, which is really good for kids who love to lean forward on the board, love to have their shoulders forward, love to have their hips backwards. That's a really good drill to correct that board action. And then back to the shaping down here, we do our boxes, which are still end to end, still only 25 to 30 centimetres high. We hit the board and we do a handstand flat back onto onto 60 centimetres. So that should be gaining a little bit of momentum at that point as well. So you can even add a third box there and just keep it to a short run still. I don't actually put in the full run or the 8 to 10 step run until I'm absolutely confident that A, they've got a strong, tight handstand, B, they understand how they need to be on the board, and C, the run is paced and it's correct every time they run. So, and then I add in the run. It's kind of like, you know, kids who are frightened of round off flips on floor. You take some of the speed out, they won't be as frightened, and then you can put the speed in as they gain confidence. Same kind of scenario. Handstand flat back against the wedge to fall with an arm circle. So the wedge is standing up, and it's standing up on your strip, on your floor strip or sprung floor strip. I wouldn't do this one on a running mat. They stand in front of the wedge, standing up. Their arms drive down past their hips and down to the floor, kick up nice and fast, and the wedge will fall as they fall, and they will land on the wedge. So that's what that drill is there. Does anyone have any questions with any of that? Any of the drills? If I explain them properly, if we were in a gym, I would love to be in a gym and show it to you with a little person, but it makes things a bit difficult, I think, when I'm just explaining it all to you. Does anyone have any questions?
At the moment, Linda, there's no questions. If you have a question, you're welcome to take yourself off mute or just pop it in the chat.
Hey, Linda, just a quick one.
Hi, Andrew.
Sorry.
Hey, how's it going? Which
Good.
would you rather work more on at this point in time? Would you rather do more board type stuff, or would you rather do mini tramp stuff more? What would you prefer?
Good question. Good question. I get asked that a lot, including the coaches that I work with at Sydney Academy. Why has it got the box out, Linda? Why is the tramp out, Linda? What are you doing, Linda? So I actually like a mix of both. I like them to learn how to use a board, but when you're little and you're light, the board is difficult to use. So if I had older kids, and when I say older kids, I mean 9 to 12-year-olds, I'd probably do a bit more board work because they're going to be a little bit more, that they're going to find using the board a little bit easier. If I've got tiny little kids from 6 to 8 years old who are very light and they're still a little bit lacking in body tension and physical preparation, I'd probably do more tramp. But I actually like a combination of both. And trust me, you've got to set it up. So I look at that program in front of me and I think, 15 minutes, and you've got to put the box in the tramp, and then you've got to get that out, and then you've got to set up the other 2 boxes and put in the board and get it all. So you've just got to be really fast. You've just got to make sure you're moving really fast. But I actually like both because the box and the tramp, I've tried it thousands of times the other way, just using the board. The box and the tramp will correct the line issues. So the kids that you have who come on really piped and roll over, just kind of like unfold as they roll over. The kids who come on really arched and then kind of tip into like a bridge. Kids who are just hit the mat every single time with bent arms, the box and the tramp will correct all of those issues. So I try and leave that in as long as possible. But I balance it.
Thanks.
I kind of like balance it out. Sorry, Andrew. I hope that helps.
No worries. No. I was just curious as to what your thoughts were on it. That's all.
Yeah, look, I find the box and the tramp is the fastest way to get kids doing a straight handstand on a hold. Definitely.
Thanks.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Yes, please.
Hi, Geraldine.
How are you?
Good.
Good. This is not a question in relation to what you're talking about. I just wondered if somebody knows how to get the participants off of the screen so I can see everything that's written on your presentation.
Can you just slide it to the side, or if you go up to the corner, and see the 3, you've got everyone down the side? Is that where we've got?
Yeah,
over
I've
the
got
whole
people
screen?
down the side, but when I go to participants, I don't know how to move them.
If you click on the top of where they're down the side and drag it down to the bottom, it'll put them on the bottom of the screen.
Oh, thank you.
So it's like grabbing the frame of people and then dragging it where you want it.
Yeah.
I'm here, Geraldine. I don't know if you can see me. I can't see no one. I just can see Linda. That's all.
But that's okay. At least we don't have to worry about that now.
Did it work, Geraldine? Did it work? Have you got the screen on?
Yeah, now they're down the bottom. That's good, but they don't stay. They don't actually go.
If you go up to the top in the black and put
Oh,
view.
no, actually, they've stayed there. No, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Good
Thank
job.
you.
Good job.
I hope everybody's well, by the way. I didn't get a chance to say before.
Thank you, Geraldine. Is anyone else got a question before we move to level 4 vault?
There's no questions in the chat at the moment, Linda. It seems
Okay.
like everyone's all good.
No worries. All right. Well, level 3 vault is tricky. Don't be worried if you feel like you're getting nowhere. Don't be worried if you feel like it's not working. I've got to change the program. It's not improving fast enough. It will improve if you keep it simple. If you've got 20 different stations down the side and, oh my God, they're over there and they're not doing it properly and I can't watch her and she's running down here, then you've got too much going on. Just simplify it. If you keep your program simple, I break it into 3 areas. I spend more on the last area of the program than I do on the first area of the program, but I do that on every apparatus. You spend less time on your beam complex than you would spend on your acro upgrades or your leap upgrades. Same kind of story. Just persevere. It's not an easy apparatus to coach because they haven't done a lot of vault when they come from level 2 to level 3. Level 3 to 4 I find a bit easier, but definitely 2 to 3 with the foundation vaults and the circuits and the minimal hours, it is really tricky. So just try and hang in there, persevere, and write what suits your squad. Write what suits your squad. This is what this is a program that I run when I get first term level 3. Definitely, I've run this before and it's worked. And this is how I like to do it, but you've got to do what makes, what works for you. No problem. Thank you, Sarah. Let's switch to level 4 vault. Okay, level 4 vault, same thing. So we've got a term 1, weeks 1 to 3, 30-minute rotation time. Although most level 4s are doing 3 days a week. They might not be doing big, long sessions of 4 hours, but they're certainly most of them are doing 3 days a week. If they're doing 2 days a week, I've worked in programs that do 2 days at 4 hours a week or 2 days at 3 hours. But most programs do 3 hours that I've found do 3 hours 3 days a week. So sometimes a bit longer on a Saturday, maybe. So same kind of scenario. I do exactly the same for every vault program that I write. I do the same thing at level 6. I do the same thing at level 7. So starting with level 4, we've got running drills, board work, shaping, marching, slow and fast seated arm swings and sprints. So remember, kids in week 1, term 1 of level 4, especially if their first time in the gym is the first week back of school and they've been on holiday for all of January, remember they're still very much level 3s. So you are going to have to go back and do some basics first and then move very slowly. If you move too quickly, you're going to encounter errors and weaknesses that you're going to have to go back and fix anyway. So putting basics at the start is a very good place to start. Okay, so we've got our marching, our arm swings, seated. Remember, focusing on the arm going backwards. So the girl in the picture with the arm going backwards, that's the bit that kids tend to not think about. And that's why we do the slow and fast seated arm swings, because it creates that muscle memory. So they don't have to think about it. And then some sprinting. So I pick a spot on the mat, depending on how long you've got. That might be 25 meters, 20 meters, 10 meters, whatever you've got. And then they sprint towards the crash mats. I move the board out of the way, or I put a soft mat over the board or something in front of the board. Ankle bouncers with foam above their head. Remember, they've just had their 6 weeks holidays off, or they've done minimal gymnastics in the last 6 weeks because it's term 1, week 1. So we need to get back some body tension. Good news about level 4 is that body tension should come around much faster than level 3. Then the board work, I limit the board drills to 5 because at this point they would have done 12 months of my board drills. So they'll be understanding what that is, how they've got to approach the board, how many steps, what angle their shoulders are. And then I do their straight jumps and pace their run onto 60 centimeters. So I give them 8 to 10 steps in their run, then hurdle, and then they hit the board and I check their pace run. And usually by the time they get to level 4, they've had their run paced by another staff member or you've paced it the year before. So they know where to start, especially if they're in the gym, starting from the same spot on the wall or spot on the mat, or they've got their little taped marker there where they run from. So it should be an easier process. And then the hurdle drill with the arms, arm circles 2 in a row. So what we did at level 3, where we approach the sticky dot or the hoop and we do a punch in the hoop. Then we walk along and then we do a punch in another hoop. This one I do 2 in a row. So punch, punch. So they have to circle their arms quickly. So they need greater coordination, which usually level 4s generally have that greater amount of coordination because they've come from 12 months at level 3. So I put 2 dots on the floor, not too far apart, because obviously they're going to punch the floor and go up. And so they do a circle and a punch on the dot on the first dot, and a circle and a punch on the second dot. Then we move to the shaping, which again, for the first 3 weeks, remember, term 1, week 1, still level 3s. I have a bit of a look and see which kids in the squad have got that aerial awareness, which kids in the squad have got good habits, which kids in the squad have got some weaknesses there that I need to correct. And the box and the tramp and 3 crash mats, because remember at level 4, they vault onto 90 centimetres. They can vault higher than 90 centimetres, but the minimum is 90 centimetres. So I try and get those 3 mats in pretty quickly so that they get used to that kind of height of the mat. Box, tramp, and then handstand flat back with or without spot. If they've come through a level 3 program that I've done with them, they've done a lot of box tramp and they've done a lot of understanding how to have that aerial awareness and that heel drive. So they should be okay, but standing into spot anyway is a good idea, especially when it's a tramp, because remember tramps, if they don't go into the handstand flat back and they come back towards the tramp, you want to make sure that they're safe and they're not going to crash. Back sleeping across boxes. Now, the good news about level 4 is they should easily be able to do back sleeping across boxes. So that's lying flat on their back with their arms above their head, shoulders on one box, and the box doesn't have to be massive. It doesn't have to be a 60 centimetre box. It can be 25 centimetres, can be 30 centimetres, lying across. You can also put plank stations in there as well for body tension, or they can do it on the floor, where they lie flat on the floor and they have their hips coming up off the floor. Any kind of body tension exercise in weeks 1 to 3 will pay dividends at week 7 to 10. Okay, moving to slide 2. Thank you, Sarah. Weeks 4 to 6. So slight increase, but still maintaining the techniques that you want to be taught. So that by the time you get to term 2, you can well and truly move on. So running drills, again, I added kick behind. So I add 1 running drill in there just to make sure that we're increasing slowly. Front support on a raised surface. Again, level 4, they should have a much better understanding of this. They should have better conditioning, and they're usually a little bit older, so they'll tend to do it properly and how you want it done. Then through the board work, 10 minutes on the board work, the board drill, which I have in every level, even higher level gymnastics, we do 5 board drills. Even at an event, we do 5 board drills or 2 board drills or have a punch on the board. Then 8 to 10 steps run, flat back onto 60 centimetres. This just gives me a good idea of they're not going to change their run when I put in a handstand. But obviously with 60 centimetres at level 4, if they're older level 4s, you probably want to make that 90 centimetres pretty quickly. If they're taller kids, I'd definitely do 90 centimetres. If they're little kids, I'd leave it at 60 centimetres just for those 3 weeks so you can work out if their run is correct. And by this time, the reason we keep that surface low is so we can check that the board position is right and they're not going to deviate from their lovely run with a straight jump, and as soon as you add a handstand, they're going to lean forward. So I just usually leave that surface quite low just to make sure the body position is correct. And then the hurdle drill again, which we saw in weeks 1 to 3, but I'm going to add a box, a low box or a panel mat. Panel mat much better than boxes. Boxes move unless you can Velcro them down. Panel mats are much heavier and tend not to move. So they approach the panel mat or the box would only be 25 centimetres, maybe 30 centimetres, and they do 2 or 3 steps, punch on the sprung floor, circle their arms, up onto the panel mat, down onto the floor and punch, and do another circle arms and up onto another panel mat. So it's like a little punch, punch action on the side of the running strip. Just be careful with punching. You don't want to do punching on a cement floor, boards, tiles, anything like that. You want to make sure that all this punching is done on something that's a sprung floor. And then from there we go to shaping, and I spend 15 minutes on shaping, but at this point, at week 4, with my level 4s in term 1, I do a little bit of work on aerial awareness with the 3 mats and the box tramp, but I probably only spend 5 turns each on that, which should only take 5 minutes. And then I start with my run and do some tuck jumps up onto 3 mats. So remember, to this point, we haven't used 3 mats with our paced run. unless you put your 90 centimeters on in your board work kind of phase of your vaulting, which you may have if you've got older kids. But generally at this point, I just see what the tuck jumps looks like, because if I ask them, first of all, go and do your run, let's go straight to jump to handstand, let's go straight to handstand flat back, 9 times out of 10, they're going to lean forward on the board because they're going to be panicked that they're going onto a higher surface. So I usually start with tuck jumps, and once I know their run is right and their board angle is right, then I move to handstands. And then over on the circuit, we've got angled handstands against the wedge. They can do a little bit longer than a level 3 athlete, but we do want to make sure that they're doing chest to the wall and back to the wall. Start with chest, and again, make sure they understand that everything has to be touching the wedge. Eyes on fingers, but not head out, and arms shoulder width apart. So we want to make sure they're all very tall and there's no gaps between shoulders and ears. We want to make sure that they're understanding the body tension. And angled, because as we come onto the vault, we are angled. We're in an angled handstand position. That's why I don't do vertical. Thank you, Sarah. Moving on to week 7 to 10. We're moving forward again. We've got some bounding and some kick behind in there. So bounding, I'm not sure if everybody's aware, bounding is like those large leaping steps that they do along the vault run. Those are the 4 drills that I always do. I always do marching, high knees, kick behind, bounding. Those are the 4 drills I do, and I would carry those 4 drills right up to level 7, and then allowing some time for some sprints. Probably at this point, I'd do some timed sprints. I'd give them a time. They love to know their time. They love to know that they're faster than the girl in front of them. They love to know that they're faster than the people behind them. So doing some time sprints at this point is good. But also when you're doing your sprints, make sure you're monitoring for that technical information that you've given them in the last 6 weeks with their arm swing and, not flicking their arms out to the side or kicking their feet out to the side. Angled handstand, hold 30 seconds, feet pointed on a box. So this is not against a wedge. This is an angled handstand with an open shoulder angle, open hip angle, tight form, eyes on fingers, shoulder width arms, all of the things you've been trying to reinforce, but without the wedge. They've got to hold that nice round shape, that nice dish shape or straight shape against a box. Then we move to the board work, board drills, as we've done in every other program. Then we do 10 to 12 steps, depending on how much space you've got. You might not have that space. I definitely wouldn't do a 25-meter run for level 3 and 4 vault. I definitely would try and keep it to 10 to 12 steps or about the 15-meter mark. And then they can do some tuck jumps onto the 90-centimeter mat, but I limit it now to 5 because I don't want to go overboard with tuck jumps once the run has been paced and I'm happy that it's correct. But I do check the run because 9 times out of 10, little kids, even older kids, they haven't started in the right spot or I started on the wrong foot. And there's absolutely no point in doing the vault unless you know the run's right and fast connecting into your hurdle, not little steps and big steps and leaps and some of the things that they do when they haven't got their run pace correctly. Rebounds backwards, so that's the same as the level 3 drill, but we've got it onto a 60-centimeter box. So they stand on the 60-centimeter box facing the board, and the board is facing towards the box. Punch onto the board and back up onto the 60 centimeters. You want to put your arm circle in there. You want to make sure that they're nice and straight when they hit the board and that they punch the board upright. Okay, and this is going to help with kids who love to lean forward on the board, and then they get really cranky at themselves when they do a forward roll vault or a very piked vault. Okay, so just making that rebound will correct that pike shape on the board. And then the shaping, I add in 5 minutes of handstand flat back with box and tramp, remembering we're still in term 1. We're not anywhere near our competition. We want to make sure that the understanding of the body tension and the aerial awareness is right. And then we do 10 to 12 steps and we do handstand flat back on the 3 mats. So if I started with kids here at week 7 and they were doing handstand flat backs onto 90 centimeters and I noticed that the run had little steps or they were getting down to the board and giving me their most favorite line, oh, I'm on the wrong foot, then I would take them back to tuck jumps and repace the run. There's 0 point, in my opinion, of doing handstand flat backs or trying to build on vaults until their run's right. So I'll probably take that child to say, okay, next time, go back to tuck jumps, let's have a look at your run and we'll correct the run. Kids will tell you too, oh, I feel too close to the board, I'm too squashed. then they need to move back on their run. Or if they're taking really large steps as they get to the hurdle, you need to move them forward on their start position of their run until all of the pace steps are the same size. Does anyone have any questions or anything that they add? Remember, that's a term 1 program. So if you're looking at that and thinking that's a little bit slow, remember it's term 1. These kids are fresh out of level 3, have jumped a day usually, or jumped at least 2 to 3 hours a week with their training. So making sure the basics are right and you being understanding of where they're at and what their strengths and weaknesses are. This is a good learning curve for you as well as a coach of a level 4 squad in term 1. Is there any questions? I don't think there's anything in the chat, Sarah, but does anyone want to unmute themselves?
Yeah, nothing in the chat, Linda. I'll just give everyone a chance if they want to unmute themselves and turn on their video with any questions that might pop up.
I don't think anyone has any questions. Okay, so that kind of concludes Vault. I think with Vault, it's really important that we make sure that the drills that we've got going on in the side stations and the circuits are working. If they're not doing it properly, or you can't control the space that they're in because there's an acro program or a boys program, then you need to pull your circuits back to things that you can control. Okay, and just it takes time. Vault takes time, particularly at level 3 and 4, which is why they're doing flat back vaults from level 3 up to level 5. They do, you know, there's a long time of flat back vaults in there. So if you just take your time and do the drills properly and make sure the techniques are right, you shouldn't have that problem. Sorry, I can see a question pop up in the chat there, Sarah.
Yeah, so Alexa's just said, can you explain the arm circles in the fall of the handstand flat back on the wedge?
The fall of the foot. So I would have arms with ears also. So is that the drill that was on the side, in the side station? Is that drill where they kick up with the arm circle? So they stand in front of the wedge is standing up in front of them. Don't stand too close to the wedge. Is that drill at the bottom? I think that might be that drill at the bottom there, on the bottom right. So they stand with the wedge standing up, and the wedge is freestanding. So they approach the wedge with an arm circle. So their arms are down as they're lunging into the wedge, and they go past their hips and down to the floor. And then they kick kick and join their feet quickly and push up through their shoulders, and the wedge, the momentum that they're hitting with the speed with them hitting the wedge will make the wedge fall, and they just keep their arms at their ears, and the wedge will fall and they will fall on the wedge. Sorry, I hope that's a good explanation. If I was in a gym, I would show it to you.
Yeah, she said thank you. It seems like you hit the nail on the head there, Linda.
Okay, so the good news about that drill is that if they pike when they hit the wedge, it's not going to work. If they're hitting the wedge in an arch, it's not going to work. They actually have to hit with a really tight, tall body, and to be able to get the wedge to fall, it has to have some force, and they have to have a bit of shoulder extension as well. So it's actually a good drill to do. It does need to be monitored, especially if you've got little kids, because they can be a little bit silly and do the wrong thing, but it's definitely something worth pursuing, because they do actually have to have a very tight, tall body to get that wedge to fall correctly.
That seems to be all the questions that are coming through at the moment. Linda, did you want me to go on to the next slide?
Yes, please. Thank you, Sarah.
No problem.
Okay, moving along to bars. We will do some vault progressions. Yes, after we've done bars, we'll go through some vault progressions and some bar progressions. So if you're thinking, oh, but what about the rest of the year? I will go through some progressions. We'll just get through the bars content first, and then we'll get to that. Okay. Bars, bars, bars. Bars, again, not an easy apparatus to coach. You know, you've got different sizes of kids, different levels of kids. Kids who are strong tend to be quite good at bars. Kids who are weaker struggle a little bit and need a little bit more time. But also fear. There's a little bit of fear when kids do bars, little kids do bars, or lower level kids do bars. So you've just got to design something that works for you. And again, get to know your squad. Remember, this is term 1, week 1 of level 3. So technically, there's still level 2s who haven't done a lot of bars. They've gone up in their hours, but they haven't started doing those hours. So you need to be a little bit patient and make sure you persevere with basics. Okay, I've got 3 different areas that I would put that into. We've got strength and shaping at the top, which I spend 5 minutes on at the start of my bars session, then casts and circles for 10 minutes, and then swing development for 15 minutes. So I have the same 3 areas. I break my program into the same 3 areas for the whole year. This is term 1. So we're obviously going to go through weeks 4 to 6 and weeks 7 to 10. And things will gradually get more difficult. But for our little level 3s or our level 3s who haven't been doing a lot of hours of gymnastics, we start very much with basics. So I do the glide shaping at this point. So making sure they're understanding the shape with which they grab the bar when they're doing a glide swing, the shape under the bar, and the shape on the front swing of the bar. So we do some glide shaping. I think actually in level 3, when they go to the competition, they have to hold the shape on the box before they glide anyway. So I've just got that built into the program. And that's just muscle memory. That's just getting them to have a good muscle memory of what they need to be doing. I don't actually get them to go back to the box, when I initially start with level 3s, because A, they get a bit frightened of hurting their feet. And B, I want to make sure that the down swing and the front swing is correct before I worry about the shaping coming backwards. And it usually takes them 2 or 3 weeks to work that out. I also do here some chin up hold or some pullovers if they come from a level 2 squad where they've already started doing some pullover work or some kick work into the pullover. You can add them in here straight away and build on that. If not, chin up hold. I do chin up hold and I actually watch them do it. They've got to have perfect form. They need their hips open, and I just vary it in times. Weaker kids, they're going to do the chin up, or you're going to help them get to the chin up, or if they're standing on a box and do the chin up, they're not going to be able to hold it very long. And other kids will do from a straight hang, do the chin up and hold it for 5 seconds, 8 seconds, however long you want them to do it. So chin up hold is a good place to start if you haven't done pullovers. Otherwise, if they have done pullovers, I think chin up pullover is a better option to kick pullover. They are allowed to kick pullover as long as they join their feet very quickly off the box at level 3 and 4. So my circuit has got front support, hands on a floor rail. If you don't have a floor rail, just a line on the floor or on the floor. Just make sure their hands are shoulder width, their head is neutral, so eyes on fingers, no head sticking up or head in looking at their feet, and just holding for 20 seconds. That shouldn't be a big deal at level 3, but if you need to reduce the time from 20 seconds to 10 seconds, you can do whatever's appropriate. Lying flat, this is just a strengthening exercise here. So I get them to lie flat on their belly, so with their chest down, their arms above their head straight. You can give them something to hold, foam, beanbag, socks, grips, whatever you've got. And then they lie flat and they're just lifting their feet up and down with straight legs. So this is a controlled movement. This is not, we call them mermaid kicks, but we don't actually do it with out of control. I make sure that stays in somewhere that I can see. Otherwise, I don't want them to hurt their back. So they just lie and they lift their feet and lower their feet. And they've got to hold their chest in. They've got to keep hold of the foam or whatever you've got in their hand, noodle or something in their hands, and they just lift and lower 10 times, which is a really good body tension exercise. It's really good for casting as well. Then from there, we go to casts and circles, front support. So you can put in a box if you've done your pullovers in your strength and shaping area, or if you haven't done any pullovers because you just did chin up hold, you can put a pullover to front support, or you can just put front support from a box, whatever works. And then we just cast to stop. So this is a really good learning curve for me to see which kids are strong, which kids have done some cast development, which kids haven't done a lot of cast development, which kids are scared of leaning forward, and so on. So I just do one cast and we stop and we come back to the bar. We don't go on the box. Because as soon as I ask them to cast onto the box, shoulders are going to move backwards. So we do one cast and stop, and I spot the cast. I make sure I've got hold of their shoulder, or I'm standing in front of the bar in case they're going to fall forward. So we do 3 casts. So this is done in a circuit. So if we go back to the strength and shaping, the glide shape is on one bar, the chin up holds on the bar, on another bar, and the front support and the lie flat chest down with arms above their head, that's in the bar area where I can see it. So they do a glide, they do a chin up hold for 3 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever you'd like them to do, or a pullover if you've got another coach that can stand in for pullovers, and then they go and do their front support, they lie flat on their chest, and then they come back to the circuit. So they're moving around in a circle for 5 minutes. And then the same thing for casts and circles, and the same things with the swing development. So one bar, they're doing front support, cast, stop. So that might be the bar with the coach. And then the other coach, or you can do it in different areas of the bar if you've got different coaches, or lower bars or higher bars. Front support, dropped candle with spot. So that one needs a coach. So that's just early back hip circle drill. And then they go around the bar area, and over to your left, you've got the front support with the feet raised 30 centimeters. So that's crash mat height, 20 seconds. And then you've got front support against the box and doing controlled pike drag ups. So they're moving around in a circle. So if you're looking at some of these numbers and going 3 casts, that's all they're going to do in 30 minutes. That's not. So they do 3 casts and they go around the circuit. Then they do 3 casts and they go around the circuit. And they do that for 10 minutes. So they're doing actually quite a lot of casts. I've just got it in a controlled environment. The front support against the box, controlled pike drag up. So a 60 centimeter box up on its side, hands on the box in front support. And then they just lift their bottom up. And then they pull their bottom back down to front support again. So that's just really good strengthening for the shoulders. That's why I've got that in there. Plus, if they're doing front support on a box, they have to lean a little bit more to stay on the box, which kind of works when you bring them back over to the rail. And then in the last section with our swing development, again, we're moving around in a circle. We've got a hang. Don't underestimate hang for little level 3s, or level 3s are in the first 3 weeks of their level 3 class. Hang, making sure that they've got, arms covering ears and that they're nice and long. Their bottom is tight, their legs are tight, their feet are pointed and together. Hang, and then just the static tap. So I would just start, if it's little kids, they might have done some taps before, but if they haven't, just go from reverse dish position to dish position. It doesn't have to be in a set, it doesn't have to be with the re-grip. It can just be hold feet behind, hold feet in front, so that they're understanding the shapes that you want them to do. And that will help them with their body tension as well. And then at the next station, they're doing tuck swings. So if you've got little kids, always put up the low bar. I always use the low bar for long hang things, because then they're closer to the floor, so they're a little bit safer. If you've got taller kids, put them on the high bar. If they're a little bit older, you're probably able to get them to do the taps on their own, but just make sure you've got heaps of matting underneath the bar. Then tuck swings, and that's just me having, in the first 3 weeks of the term, I need to see if they're understanding the tap, if they're strong enough to re-grip. So I would be probably spotting at that station, just holding their wrist or assisting with the backswing. I'd have lots of small mats, and it would be on a low bar. So remember, if it's a taller child, it can still be on the low bar. You just need to put the low bar up so that they can fit in a tuck shape. Or if it's a little child, they can probably have the low bar where it is and just put some mats underneath. But I would definitely be holding the wrist, because you're unsure of what you're going to see in weeks 1 to 3 or what kind of swing development they've done. So tuck swings, just 3. So just understanding that they have to have the tap. Where have they got the tap? Have they got it late? Have they got it early? Are they understanding the shape at the front? Are they understanding the shape at the back? And so on. And in the circuit, we've got a reverse dish hold holding the foam. Remember, head in between arms, no eyes up and head moving up. Otherwise, you're not reinforcing the correct shape. And then the hollow body dish hold with the noodle. So I get a pool noodle, which are very light and very cheap, and I have a few of those in my bar circuit, and they hold the noodle down at their hips. So they're in a dish shape, but they've got a noodle in their hand with straight arms, and they've got it kind of down near their hips. And that's just because they're new level 3s, this dish shapes are not going to be strong. So I get them to put their arms down initially, just so I can make sure that their lower back's on the floor and they're in the right shape. Okay, next one, Sarah. Moving on to weeks 4 to 6. Again, same areas, strength, cast and swing. Glide shaping on the box. I'd go back to the box by week 4. So your box can be lit low, can be 60 centimeters. It can be whatever you deem appropriate for the size of the child. Chin up pullovers times 2. If they're still unable to do a pullover at this point, just keep going with the chin up hold or spot them through pullovers. Otherwise, chin up pullover times 2 means chin up, pullover, roll forward, don't let go of the bar, chin up, pullover. So it's actually in a little set, which is going to make them really strong. And then L hang, this can be with their partner on the rail that's over the other side of you or at the back of you, so they're moving around in their circuit, and do an L hang and get their partner to put foam on their feet, and they've got to hold the foam on their feet with nice straight legs for 5 seconds, and they can take turns at that. They usually enjoy that part, having a partner. And then elsewhere in the circuit, we've got front support on the floor rail, feet raised to 40 centimetres. With level 3s, I'd leave it at 40 centimetres because usually if their feet are higher, you have to compromise somewhere in the shape. So I leave it at 40 centimetres. And hollow dish hold. So at week 4, we've got the noodle still, but we've got our arms above our head. So we should be getting a little bit stronger to be able to hold the dish shape. If they're not able to hold the dish shape with the arms above their head, keep their arms down near their hips or lie on their back, bent knees like a sit-up, hold the noodle above their head with straight arms and just round their chest. So the top half of the dish shape, that often works as well. There's no point in a child holding a dish shape with a big arch under their lower back. They're just going to hurt their back. Okay, then the casts. Pull over to front support, cast to stop. So we're still just doing single cast because we're still getting our bearings with how to cast and how to have control off the bar and use the bar to push. So we do 5. Then they do front support on a station with a coach, and the coach is going to turn the Beckett circle around. So you put them in the front support, check all that they're tight, chest in, head neutral, legs tight, butt tight, and then you spin them around and stop them. So that's a coach assisted station, that one. Front support, shoulder shrugs. You can do that on the box where the pike drag ups were. They can just do front support and just shrug their shoulders, or you can do that if you're in a gym that's got a few little low bars around or stations around, you can do that one. And candle holds, they can lie on their back and hold onto the bar upright behind them, or if you get a board, they can hold onto the board with their hands, the edge of the board with their hands behind them, or they can hold onto their partner's legs with their arms behind them, and they're just holding a candle and maintaining that core strength, holding the candle. So we're not lowering, we're not levering, we're just doing the hold at this point, which will help you with your drop to hollow shape, being able to control that candle. And 5 seconds, it's up to you, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, depending on how strong the kids are. Swing development, they're still doing the taps, but they should be able to do them in sets of 3 now. So they should be able to re-grip properly. They should have their shoulders really stretched and long, and they should understand reverse and front dish. You can still spot that one if you need to, but that's a good one that you can put if you put a crash mat under them. They can do that one pretty safely on their own. If it's little kids, use the low bar. Front support, the back hip circle. Down in the next box, aren't we? Long swing with straddle to stance. So that's standing, and you can do this on the low bar with little kids. It doesn't have to be the high bar, but it can be the high bar if you've got older kids or kids with longer legs. Stand with their feet on, so 2 boxes with a channel in between. Holding onto the bar like a dish hold for a glide, 1 foot on each box. They jump from the boxes into the channel, the little gap you've created. They swing forward and they come back and put their feet back out on a straddle. So I start with that with the long swings. I make sure I've got heaps of mats, and there's always a coach with level 3s in any swinging station, particularly if you've got little kids on a higher bar, because if they slip, they're going to hurt themselves. So make sure you've got a coach at any kind of swinging station when they're learning to swing. And I'll just do it in singles. I wouldn't do jump, swing, 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 stop. I do swing, stop, check shape, check body tension, check form, swing, stop. Same thing, and just go from there. Pike drag ups are in my circuit, which is really good for shoulder strengthening and core control, and hanging hollow levers. There's a picture later on in the slides here with a hanging hollow lever. So making sure that we've got kids in a hang, complete hang, and then they just hold the dish at the front for 2 or 3 seconds and back to the hang. So that should be a station they should be able to maintain on their own. Thank you, Sarah. Then moving towards the end of the term in weeks 7 to 10, we've got just a little bit of an extension of what we've been doing. The glide swing to and from the box. If they're little, sometimes they can do that one by themselves. If they're taller, they might need a lower box or something some help to do it. Chin up pullovers. So again, put them in a set, put them in a row so that they're building conditioning. L hang kicking. So that's a hang with their legs out in front of them in an L, and then they just do little kicks with their feet up and down. Which involves their obliques as well when they're kicking. Front support, feet on the physio ball. Anything on a physio ball, obviously, ball's round, it's going to move, so it's harder to keep control, but getting them to do just in small increments, 5 seconds, 3 seconds, 8 seconds, they should be okay. I wouldn't do that one initially with their hands on a floor rail. Probably level 4 I would, and level 5, but level 3s I just have hands on the floor because they're going to be quite wobbly and struggle with body tension. Casts and circles, pull over this time to cast 2 in a row. So there's 2 in a row casts in lower levels 3 and 4. So should be getting a bit stronger with our cast and should be less scared to lean forward over the bar. Don't expect the cast to be horizontal at this point. You remember you're in term 1. You just need to make sure they're understanding that rhythm and they're strong enough to have that, or have enough control to be able to do 2 in a row. And I would do 3 of those. So they do pull over, cast, stop, back to the bar, cast, stop, cast, stop, jump off, move to the next station. And that's for 10 minutes. So they'll be going around in a circle. Cast back up circle with spot. Don't be concerned about the cast height, just understanding the cast and the shoulder drop is difficult for them. You might need to do a fair bit of spotting with this one. If they're not understanding it, they're throwing their head back or they're altering their cast or any techniques you've taught, I would go back to the manual turn until they're understanding that they have to use the correct techniques. Candle lever down, so they're holding onto their partner's legs or holding onto the post of the bar, starting with the candle and just lowering down in a nice tight shape as slowly as they can. And they do 2 of those at one station. Then front support, jump to plank. That's in front support, feet on the floor, hands on the floor. Make sure it's all correct with the shape and everything how you need it. Then they jump their feet and stop back to plank. So they've got to jump 2 feet off the floor and then go back to the plank position, which is just like kicking feet on a cast or having that control when they hit the floor. So that might be a difficult one that I haven't explained well, but if anyone needs an explanation, I can explain it again. Swing development, tap sets, 5 sets of 3 again, and then long swing from the straddle, but doing 2 swings in a row. So standing in the straddle with the channel that you've created or the gap that you've created, swing, swing, stop on the straddle, swing, swing, stop on the straddle. L-hang walk, starting on one side of the low bar. Good news about L-hang is you can even put the taller kids on the low bar or put the low bar up, and they start in an L and they walk across and walk back. So they're using their abs and their upper body, and then the pike hold toes at the bar. This one's really tricky, particularly with kids who aren't strong in their abs. So you might just need to leave that in an L hold, but kids who are strong, they can try and lift their feet up to the bar and do a pike hold. So that's moving towards kipping and things like that, being strong enough to have their toes at the bar. Okay, thank you, Sarah. Before we do level 4 bars, does anyone want to unmute themselves and talk about level 3 bars? Just keep in mind that's level 3, term 1, so we're not moving quickly at that point. No?
Doesn't seem like there's any questions, Linda.
Okay, good-o. We'll move on to level 4 bars. Level 4 bars, similar, very similar to level 3 because most of the skills are similar. They'll have much better coordination. They won't be as fearful. They'll have better conditioning, so you'll be able to do things a little bit differently and you'll be able to get moving with some of your kip development. Glide swings, same as level 3, back to the box, 3 at each time they touch the bar. They need to do 3 before they go to the next station. Chin up, pull over, roll to hang, chin up, pull over. They should be able to do that on their own, even if it's just on the low bar with mats under. Front support as per level 3, and lying down with the heel raisers holding the foam as per level 3, but just upping the numbers. Casts and circles, front support, casts 2 lots of 2 in a row. Remember, they're going around in a circle many times, so they do cast, stop, and they do cast, stop. Cast, back up, circle, stop. I would do that one with a coach. So they do cast, back up, circle, stop, check shape, cast, back up, circle, stop, check shape. You can even put in some straps there, but obviously straps take a bit of time to get on and off, particularly if kids you've got level 4s in grips. So you might want to put in some different stations or allocate the strap station to different kids first so that they're not having to take straps on and off. Front support, jump to plank, the same as in we just discussed in level 3. Hold a front support shape, jump feet, land back in. It's only a little jump, just a little jump of the feet and land back in front support. Dish hold with the rail. Now the rails are a little bit heavier than the noodles. That's why they hold the rail at level 4 and try arms down, making sure their lower back is on the floor. The swing development, 3 lots of 5 taps they should be able to do in a row with reasonable body tension and understanding of the regrip. And then the swings jumping from a box. So the same swings that are in level 3 routine, stand on the box, jump to the bar, and 3 swings in a row. You will need mats under the bar. And if you're on a high bar, you need to have a coach at that station, or a coach on a box holding a wrist or making sure it's all nice and safe. Then reverse dish rocks with the foam. Again, arms straight, legs tight, head neutral, not head up, and the pike drag up's the same as level 3. They should be a little bit stronger, so they'll have better control and be able to get their bottom higher. Okay, level 4 bars. Next slide, Sarah. Glide swing from the box with a jump. So at level 4, they don't have to hold the dish shape. So at this point, we would put in the jump, making sure they're understanding that the glide shaping needs to remain the same as if they were doing it from the bigger box or the hold. And then some glide swing. So jump from a box, grab the bar, do a glide, bring toes to the bar. So that's early kip development there. If they're having trouble, they're tucking their legs into the bar or they're hitting their feet on the floor, I wouldn't do that one. I'd stay with the glides until they're strong enough to be able to do the toes at the bar properly. But some kids, little kids and older kids, might be stronger and able to get their toes to the bar. So that's a good place to start. Front support, so this is between 2 boxes. So front support with a 25 centimetre box either side of their feet. And they do front support, feet on the floor, and they jump and they put their legs, one leg on each side in the front support. It's just a cast control drill. And pike hold toes at the bar for 3 seconds. They can do that on a back bar or a side station bar. Again, if they're unable to do it with straight legs, if they're unable to do it in the correct position, go back to the L hang. Casts and circles 2 in a row times 2, and then chin up, pull over, cast back at circle, drop to candle. So that's in lead up for the undershoot, the under swing dismount. That needs a coach. Obviously, drop to candle with spot. We have to have a coach there to do your drop to candle. If the cast and the back up circle, the athlete is changing what they're doing to be thinking about the candle, then I would go back to cast, back up circle, stop, and then drop to candle on its own. Pull downs with the elastics, so that's with the TheraBands or the elastics. So tie the elastic, lying on their back with the elastic tied around the support of the bars and just doing the pull downs or the shoulder extension and flexion drills. And floor kips with the noodle. So the noodle's light, so if they drop it, it won't hurt. If they drop it on their belly, it won't hurt. So lying flat, noodle above the head, flat on their back, toes come up to the noodle, noodle slides down their leg, and they end up in a seated lean forward. I'm sure we've all done that one before. 5 of those. That's just a muscle memory drill, kips. And then the swing development from the box, 3 lots of 3. And then we can put some straps in there and do some swinging on straps. But again, straps take a bit of time to get on and off. So if you want to, usually when I start my circuit, I put kids at the strap bars, and then they move around the floor drills, the circuit drills, and they go strap bar to circuit drills. And I've got kids on the unevens going around the opposite way, and then I switch them over so that they're all getting to use the straps. You do have to move quickly. It is a small time frame, so you do have to get straps on and off quickly, but you just make sure that the girls are aware that they need to move quickly. It shouldn't be an issue. Cantilever down as per level 3, so holding onto the upright behind them, starting in a candle and levering down very slowly with control, trying to keep hips open and legs tight. And then the hanging hollow levers as per level 3, so in a hang on a bar, and then holding a dish in front and then returning to hang. Okay, Sarah, week 7 to 10. Okay, glide swing, 2 lots of 2. So standing on a low box as per the level 4 bar routine. Glide back to the floor. You can get them to go back to the box if you need to, if you want to reinforce some shape. What we're looking for on a glide is not jumping off the box and lifting their feet up straight up in front of them. We want to keep feet behind them as they grab the bar. Hence the reason we do the dish hold with the box at level 3. And then we want their feet, you know, scooping along past the floor as close to the floor, not piking up off the floor. Glide swing toes at bar. Again, don't do that one if they're not strong enough to do the glides. 2 in a row or 3 in a row. Probably need to stay with the glides if they're hitting their feet or bending their legs. L hang walks, forward and back across the low bar, and front support feet on the physio ball, 10 seconds. So you can adjust that time frame as kids get stronger. You can also have hands on a floor rail or hands on the floor whatever best suits. Remember that the ball, it's trickier to hold it on the ball, so they've got to maintain a much tighter shape. Cast 2 in a row times 5. So they do cast, stop, and they do that 5 times. Then they go to the next station and cast, back up, circle, drop to candle the spot. So that's as per weeks 4 to 6. So that needs a coach to spot that one. But that candle drop is as much about the back up circle or clear circle as it is about the undershoot, because the entry is the same. And then at this point, I would start climbing to stand on the bar with spots. So I'd have the bar down really low or with a crash mat underneath them or 2 crash mats underneath them. And they just start in front support and I get them to climb up and stand on the bar. I usually try and get them to balance there for a second and then just jump down onto the crash mat. I don't get them to jump to the bar at this point. Absolutely not. I make the floor as high as I can get it. And I make sure that there's a coach there at all times. And they just climb up, stand there. I usually get them to say their whole name, Mary Smith, and then jump down, because that just gives them a little second on top of the bar so they can understand they've got to be, you know, you don't want to be doing a climb onto a bar and jumping to a high bar, not balanced properly on the low bar. So I usually get them to say their whole name or their phone number or whatever it is, just maintain there for a second and then jump down. Candle lever down as per level 3, glide forward, swing, lie on the box. So this is a kip drill. So I put a 60 centimetre box and I put a wedge or a angled box and a mat or a soft mattress or something, and they lie as if they're in the front swing of a glide. So their toes are pointing down at the floor. They've got a nice hollow chest, shoulders open, head in between arms, and then they lie in that position and just bring their toes back to the bar and back down and back to the bar and back down. That's just a kip drill that they can do. And then we do our swinging. So we've got our straps, our long swing with straps. And at this point, we're probably looking to do some pullovers. I always start when I teach a swing pullover with tuck swings, just because it's comfortable for me to spot at that height. So I put the low bar up, or I've got little kids, I put some mats underneath. They do 2 tuck swings, and on the 3rd swing, we go from the tap and over around the bar on the pullover. And be prepared, you're going to have to do a lot of it to start with until they understand the tap and the front swing, swinging over the bar like a baby giant. L hang kicking, which we did in level 3, and elastics, and you can increase reps with the elastics. So you can do pull downs and you can do opening their shoulder angle as well. So you're working in both directions, and then just increase numbers as you need to. Okay, good news about level 3 and 4 bars and vault is they're very closely related. Kids that are strong and have adapted to all the glides and all the swinging, you can definitely start your kip work earlier or start your kip drills. Kids who are really strong at swinging can start their swing pullovers and things earlier as well. Just keep in mind that the whole squad's not going to move at the same pace. You're going to have to keep the program suited to everyone, kids who want to move slow and kids who need to move fast. Does anyone have any questions about level 4 bars? No?
Doesn't seem like it.
Sorry,
Linda.
I have a question. Sorry. With swings, is it okay to be doing metal bar with them from level 3?
Yes, I'm going to go through some progressions in a minute. I do straps with level 3s, but I'm very, very careful because if they're little kids, I make sure that I'm on a box and holding their wrist at all times. I make sure that I have fitted their straps, not gone and let mum fit them or the child go, yeah, these are fine. I make sure I have a big take on how the straps go, and I probably wouldn't do it until term 3, end of term 2, term 3, because I think that their hands are very little or they're not used to doing a lot of swinging. They're not very strong. So I just make sure that I'm very careful with straps. Certainly at level 4 for the whole 12 months, yes, but probably the second 6 months of level 3.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Anyone else?
Not at the moment, Linda.
Okay, let's move on, Sarah. So we've got some progressions here. Vault progressions, monitor the program really carefully, adjust numbers as you need to. Side stations and circuits need to be things that they can do that they're going to do well or that they're going to do properly. If you set up 5 stations and they're only doing 1 station correctly, then you need to monitor that. Little kids, I wouldn't do more than 2 side stations, and I would make sure that they're in eyesight at all times. And just keep a check on quality numbers, not unnecessary numbers. There's zero point in doing 20 volts poorly if you can do 10 very well. So you need to make sure you've got good time management. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, Volt, here are just some progressions. The running drills are important for Volt, keep them going. The handstand program that you're doing as part of your conditioning rotation will also support your Volt programs, because as they get stronger and their coordination and their body tension improves, Volt will get better quickly. Lots of handstand drills would be my advice. Obviously, level 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Volt is a handstand. So you need as many handstand side stations as you can do. Remember to look at their run. If there's something wrong with the run, there's going to be something wrong with the Volt. If there's something wrong on the board, there's going to be something wrong with the Volt. So the run and the board are by far the most important part of that. Once that bit has settled and you've got them running at a pace that they do every session and starting from their marker, it will improve quickly. Try and get through 10 to 12 volts. Now, if that's box tramp in your early part of term 1, then 10 to 12 goes of the box tramp. I think anything less than 10 times, you're probably going to see quite slow progress. So try and keep your reps above 10 for any of your handstand drills or progressions. So that's box tramp, 10 or 12. The running from the flat back, or the 2 boxes end to end, punch on the board, handstand flat back, try and keep quite a few numbers of that going. And the tramp is your friend. Angry cat bounces, front support bounces, knees to handstand, jump to handstand off the end of a double mini or a tumble tramp. You can put your crash mats at the end of the tumble tramp, and you can reinforce some of your Volt drills. It's not so much a hurdle. They can jump along the tramp, which I get. We do hurdles on Volt, not jump entry onto the board, but it's definitely good for aerial awareness and for line work when it comes to hitting the mat. It's an easy thing to do. And similar for level 4, pop handstands can come into it. I don't do a lot of work with pop handstands at level 3 unless I've got older kids who've got good control and have done a bit of gymnastics. I would put pop handstands, but usually pop handstand I leave for level 4. I don't believe they have the control or the strength at level 3, especially when they're young, and doing it in a poor way is going to lead to an injury or a bigger issue with your Volt program. So I kind of leave that for level 4. And there's all kinds of things: pop handstand rows, pop handstand to flat back on a crash mat or a soft mat. Tramp as well. You can try flat backs onto 90 centimeters off a double mini or a tumble tramp. Fly springs are also good. So if you set up your crash mats at the end of the double mini or the tumble tramp, fly spring is to your feet. So they do jump on the tramp, handstand to land on their feet. If they're arching over or their body conditioning their body shaping or tension is poor, stay with the flat backs. I would make sure they've got a good understanding of the entry phase of the fly spring before I did to the feet. If they're struggling with that, then I would stay with flat backs. And you can increase that 60 centimeters, 90 centimeters, 100 centimeters. You can make that as high or low as you like. And again, keep the numbers of the vaulting that you're doing between 10 and 12 volts per session. Thank you, Sarah. Yep, we've got some bar progressions. Conditioning is key for bars. The more conditioning you do in your side stations, the stronger the kids are going to get. The stronger they're going to get, the easier the bars learning is going to be. Compulsory skills at level 3 and 4 are very closely related, so it shouldn't be difficult to cover some development. Which is why I've got a little bit of KIP development or some KIP conditioning in the start of the first 3 weeks of level 4 program. KIP circle and swing development at level 4 is key. It's drills. There's about 1.5 billion of them on YouTube. The Klur and Turnen drills, which I think is a German YouTube channel, they've got some really good conditioning drills. If you type in Klur and Turnen into YouTube, you'll get all of their stations, some of which are very, very good. And just keep kids moving around the bar area. Bar areas are small. If you've got a squad of 10, sometimes there's a lot of weighting. Don't be frightened to put extra conditioning in there, things that they can do on their own, things that they're doing safely, and things that are going to make a difference to your program. And then just monitor. It just really needs to be closely monitored. Bars, if they're doing things, if you've got a progression in your program, you think, oh goodness, they're not particularly very tight doing that. We need to go back to this. Don't be frightened to go backwards. You can't go forwards properly until you've been backwards. So don't be frightened to keep the program moving forward, but put in reinforcement of things you've done 6 weeks ago or 8 weeks ago. Don't be frightened to put more conditioning in there. And then make sure your conditioning rotation has got a reasonable amount as well, because that will support your bar program. Thank you, Sarah. Bar progressions for level 3. Straps need to be implemented into level 3 at some point, but make sure it's very carefully monitored. Like I just said before, they can do straddle start, kick start, swinging. I would make sure there's a coach always with straps with level 3s, particularly if they're young and very light. They can easily slip from straps, so make sure you've got plenty of matting and a coach. Underswing dismounts, starting with the drop to candle. There's one drill that I really like for underswings. Something that I saw many years ago. They start in front support on the bar, and in front of them, so that they're looking at, there's a box with a wedge in front of it, and they just drop backwards to a candle and try and swing their feet over the top of the wedge and stay holding onto the bar. So they actually land on the top of the wedge in the box, but in like a hollow dish shape. So they're still holding onto the bar. There's a lot of kids, I think the problems with underswing dismounts, a lot of kids pike really heavily and then just kind of shoot down to the floor. So you want to just reinforce that candle shape. And I think that that drill does a good job of that. I don't know if I've explained that properly. If I had a child in front of me, I would show you, but it is a very effective drill. They go over the top of their feet, head towards over the top of the wedge, and the wedge will bend as their hips land on the wedge, and then they'll sit on the box. They'll land seated on the box with their hands still on the bar. Toe shoots, casting. I think toe shoots have become more popular of late. Previously, underswing dismounts were more popular, but there has been some toe shoots of late. Lots of good casting for toe shoots. Swinging with in the pike position, pike toe shoot position, straddle toe shoot position, little tiny swing, so that they're understanding their feet have to push into the bar and that they have to have pressure on their feet at some stage in a toe shoot is really good. You can do that on strap bar as well. Later, you know, with your little level 3s, but make sure you've got a coach with them on the strap bar. And then starting with one foot on the bar, standing on a box and just jumping the other leg on. That's a good one too, with the coach to spot the front swing. And then after that, they can try some toe shoots with a coach to spot them, to help them with that cast. Their feet have got to rise and then pull into the bar quickly to be able to get their feet in before they swing down. So I would do a lot of spotting, I think, with toe shoot dismounts. I would do a lot of casting. Kids who can't cast horizontal generally struggle to get their feet into the bar on a toe shoot. If it was my squad and the direction was coming from me on which way they would go, I would go with underswing dismounts, just because they're a little bit more developmental. And in level 5, obviously, there's an underswing into a swing. So I'd probably stay with that. But look, there's lots of kids doing toe shoots. Just make sure you've got lots of soft mats around and that they really understand the cast. They can do some floor rail work with toe shoots where they stand on the floor rail or put one foot, then the other foot, and then swing down onto a crash mat, sitting on a crash mat, so that they're understanding the fall part of the toe shoot. I think the most important part's probably the cast, though. Make sure they can cast really good before you start spotting them. Otherwise, you're doing more than they are. Does anyone have any questions about level 3 or level 4 bars? No? Everybody's okay?
Seems like everyone's okay, Linda.
Can you go to the level 4 bar slide, Sarah?
And
Thank you. So there was a couple of questions that I had this week just via email about kids being frightened of jumping from bar to bar at level 4. And the best thing that I can tell you that has worked for me is don't jump from the low bar to start with. I put the box in, and we jump to the high bar with all the crash mats and the coach standing there. Then I gradually move the box backwards. If you look at that last point there in the PowerPoint, jump to high bar, that's the process that I take. I move the bar back gradually. I have worked with coaches who've moved the bars in, but that can be difficult when you've got kids, taller kids and little kids working in the same session on bars. But just start with the jump from the box. Start with the jump from the box, gradually move the box backwards as they become comfortable, and then start with a box that is similar or same as the low bar height, so that when they have to actually make that transition, it's far less scary. So what I end up getting to, after I've done lots of jumping from the box and moving it back, I put the box, which is a similar height to the low bar, behind the low bar. I get them to climb on the box, step up, which is only 5 centimeters step up, or 10 centimeters step up onto the low bar, and then jump to the high bar. If you try and get them to jump from a squat on or a climb on straight away, they will always be scared. And they're scared because if something's not stable in the squat on or the climb on, then the jump to the high bar is almost like a blind movement. And that's what's frightening them. So I always go from the box first, and I don't do any climbing up or tucking onto the bar, jump to the high bar, until they're willing to just stand on the low bar of a box and jump to the high bar. Then I would add the climb on or the squat on. Does anyone else do that as well? I find that I've had lots of kids that are frightened, and that's the drill that always works the best. And look, you might only be able to move the box 2 or 3, 5 centimeters at a time as they become comfortable. Little kids obviously more scared because they're little. There's a bigger distance for them. Taller kids are going to be more comfortable. But if they can stand on a box, step up onto a bar and jump to the high bar, then I would start adding the climb on or the squat on from there. Swing development in straps, also really good with level 4, making sure they're working on their swing pullover. You might have to cut up a noodle and put it over the metal bar so that when they do their pullover, they can definitely do the swing pullover without hurting their hips, because that's what they're frightened of when you're starting with swing pullovers. They haven't got the tap in the right spot. They're really frightened. They bend their arms. They're just really frightened. So if you put something soft on the bar, put a noodle over the bar, it's not going to hurt their belly or not going to hurt their hips. They're generally more comfortable to have a go at the tap and make the swing go into the pullover. And then kip drills. Clure and Turner have got amazing kip drills, amazing core drills, circuit drills, complexes. If you type that into YouTube, there's hours of watching to do. But drills in your circuits. And remember, kips require a reasonable amount of strength and timing. So the more muscle memory stations you can do with kip drills and the more conditioning stations you can do with kip drills, the better. Does anyone have any questions before we move to physical prep? I'll be done quickly.
Linda, it's Jo Thompson.
Hi, Jo.
Hello, how you going?
Good.
Mine's not really a question. I just think that when, as bars in particular, we always feel like we never have enough time on bars. There is always, you just get going and you look up and there's a group sitting there putting their groups on and you think, I've just got started. So one of the things that I found helped with that, if I have my kind of bar complex set and we do the same thing, well, I actually do it kind of half a turn so that the kids come, at least when you get there, you spend the first couple of weeks explaining those skills and then they get there. I found that if I was trying, I wanted to do all the things, and if I was changing it up, I just wasted too much time. So I kind of got to the stage where we'd come and I'd go, right, bar drills, go. You know, my kids I'm doing level 5s at the moment, but they had their own starting station. So we didn't even have to talk about who was going where and who was partners with who. We just off they went. And I just found that I felt like I gained 5 to 10 minutes on bars each day just because they knew what they were doing.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Jo. That is an issue at bars. That is an issue. I'm so glad you brought that up. Thank you. That's why I also do my program in blocks of 3 weeks, because in week 1, they're a little bit slow, but by week 3, they're fast and they're onto it and they know where to start. And yes, you're exactly right. Put them on a station where they start the same all the time so that they know. Especially if they're wearing grips or straps, they know that when they leave the apparatus before, they've got to quickly get their straps and get over and get on the bar quickly. So knowing where they're going, knowing what they're doing, and putting it in blocks. If you're not seeing improvement in week 1 to 3, do another week of the same program so that they're getting faster and getting through their numbers quickly, and then do a week less in the level 7 to 10, in the week 7 to 10 area. So, but the other thing I do, and I don't do it with little kids, but with grips, there's a time frame. You've got a minute and a half. If grips aren't on and not ready to get on the bar in a minute and a half, you start with the conditioning. You start with the conditioning station. So, because they tend to do sit and talk and want to have a little chat about that, and my chalk's not right, and she's using my water spray, and yeah. So absolutely, that's an amazing idea, making sure they're at the same station and the routine is the same. Even if you have to make little tweaks, try and keep some familiarity there. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Sarah. We'll move on to the next slide. Physical prep, upper body, mid body. Just if anyone has to leave, yes, the session was to finish at 2:30. If you have to leave, there will be a recording made available to you, and a copy of the PowerPoint will be made available to you. So if you have to leave, I completely understand. The most important question is prep. Absolutely, with the physical prep. We're going to do upper and mid body today. I'm going to give you lots of variations. I won't go through every single variation. I'll give it to you in front of you, and you can have a read through. And then if we've got any questions, you can certainly ask as many as you like. But it is important. It is very, very important, particularly for vaulting and bars. Upper and mid body is very, very important. First, what do you have? How many? What level? What age? What area of the gym have you got? Do you have a dedicated conditioning rotation? What apparatus is available to you? There's no point in putting chin-ups in your physical prep program if there's no bar available to you in the area of the gym that you're in. So you do need to have some of this information before you can make some of these decisions. And just all kids are different. It's going to take term one, probably all of term one, for you to figure out who is where, if they're new kids that you haven't had before. Some kids strong upper body, weak mid body. Some kids have got lots of lower leg and can run and punch and vault for days. But when it comes to bars, the upper body is not so fabulous. So the bar program is suffering. Work out what you have and don't overcomplicate it. That is my biggest tip to you for the day. I've worked with a lot of coaches, and I hear a lot of coaches saying, they're just not getting stronger. Why aren't they getting stronger? I'm doing all these drills and I've been on this website and I've done this. Well, show me a program. Oh, there's 23 activities that I do, but we never get 23. Keep it simple. I'd say for level 3 and 4, 6 things, 6 conditioning things that they need to do, and break them into different areas. 2 upper body, 2 mid body, 2 lower body. Put your handstand program in there as well. Put your flexibility program in the warm-up in the end. Put your shaping in the warm-up so you don't have to cover that in your conditioning. So you need to really think this out. You need to really think this out and make sure you're putting things in the right places. Plus, if you've got 23, 24 things for them to do and they're only getting through 15 things, then you've got too much in your program. And there's no way you can monitor that amount if you've got that many things in your program. And there's no point in doing 15 different activities if 2 are being done correctly. Because if you've got stations set up everywhere and you're not monitoring the cheating that's going on in the chin-ups, and they will cheat on the chin-ups and the leg raises, that's the first place they cheat, then they're not going to be getting stronger. So, all right, Sarah, let's move on to the next slide. So these are just the conditioning things that I do at level 3 and 4 that work the best for me. Chin-ups and leg raises, absolute staple in the program. Chin-ups can be in different amounts. That's the ideal. Chin-ups and leg raises ideal that I've got listed there. You can start with small numbers. You can start with a spotter. You can start doing it with an elastic. You can start doing it with feet on a box. Work out where you need to start for the level that you do, and then work out a repetition that works. If they're getting fatigued at 5 chin-ups and they're starting to swing and kick and bend their legs and beat, and then probably I would say you need to make sure that you don't have 12 chin-ups in your program. If they're getting fatigued at 5, I'd probably set the number at 8. So those last 3 are really a challenge for them and they're getting ahead with their conditioning, but they're not feeling like they can't achieve it. So just be careful with numbers. So chin-ups and leg raises. Excuse me, I'll have a drink. Can you switch the slide, Sarah? These are the chin-ups and leg raises that we can go into. Some of this I would not do with level 3s because I believe the quality needs to be right on the early parts of the chin-ups and the leg raises before you move to something more difficult. But these are definitely the ones that work in the level 3 to 7 program. Spotting a child to do a chin-up and you doing the lifting is making you strong and her weak. So you need to readjust how you think a little bit when it comes to your chin-ups. There's lots of options there, starting from the easiest at the top down to the most difficult down the bottom, number 11 and 12 being the most difficult. Feet on the box with straight hips, that's almost in a lying down position. That's quite an easy chin up to do. You can start with that. Feet on the box in a pike shape. So feet are out like an L hang position, but feet are on a box. They can put their feet on a band or an elastic. That sometimes helps. They can do it with a spot, but when I spot chin-ups, and they always put their hand, Linda, can you help me do my chin-ups? Thinking I'm going to do the chin-up for them. And then I do the initial part so that their arms are bent and make them do the rest. They're like, I'll do it myself. So don't do too much spotting, because the spotting that you're doing is making you very strong and not so much them. So reverse grip chin-ups, can do the chin-ups with their head in front, which work a different muscle in their back. Grip changes at the top. So we chin up, turn the grips around, lower down, chin up, turn the hands around, lower down. Those probably a little bit more difficult for level 3 and 4 kids. Probably the top half of that list would be for level 3 and 4 kids, and the same with the top half of the leg raisers list, definitely. Tuck leg raisers being the easiest. That's the hollow shape, that picture that I was talking about when we were in the bar circuit. So they start with a hang and they lift to a hollow and return to a hang. But with the leg raisers, think of variations. They might do 5 with straight legs, 5 up to L and lower, 5 tuck in, and they're doing it all in a set. So they're doing 15 of something. You've just varied the intensity. That's all you've done, but they're doing 15. So that might be a good place for them to start. Some of the leg raisers down the bottom, obviously for kids who are much, much stronger. The windscreen wipers are where the windscreen wipers in tuck, so number 9. That's knees up on their chest and knees moving side to side in that tuck position. That's the easiest way to do it. Then doing it, windscreen wipers number 10, that would be with the straight legs, which is far more difficult because they've got to keep their toes at the bar as well as moving their legs side to side. Leg raisers with L leg raisers with crisscross. So they start with a hang, lift their feet up to the bar, return to an L, and then crisscross their feet 10 times, and then return to a hang. So hoping all this is making sense. And then I just develop combinations. In today's leg raisers set, we're doing 5 in a tuck, 5 just to L and down, and then 5 all the way at the top. And on the last one, come down really slow, stop at L, count to 3 and relax. So again, measure it by the fatigue level. If they're getting really fatigued after 5, there's no point in doing 20. If they're getting really fatigued after 10, there's no point in doing 20. So just kind of gauge where you are. And some kids are going to do leg raises for days, and other kids are just going to need a little bit more time to get strong. Thank you, Sarah.
So Linda, sorry to
Yes.
Joe again. When you do that, how do you, within your squad, how do you differentiate? Do you say, okay, we're all going to do tucks today, but this child you need to do 10 and this one you're working towards 5, or do you give them different activities? So do you have one child doing the tuck and one child doing the straight, depending on what their strength level is?
I do. That's what I give them all the same amount. They've all got the same program. So if it says 10 leg raises and they're in level 3, this child, and this child really quite strong can just do 10 leg raises. This child bent knees as they get kind of up above horizontal, she starts to bend the legs, so she'll do 3 with straight legs as high as she can and the other 7 in a tuck.
Gotcha.
Or she'll stop at an L and do some kicking. So I just give them a variation of the exercise, but they have to do the number
rather than a variation of the number. Okay, good.
Otherwise, the ones doing the maximum amount at the hardest,
Get cranky.
They start looking and go, hang on a second, if I can just do that instead of that, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So everybody does the same. I just vary the intensity as according to where they're at.
Okay, tough.
No worries. Thank you, Sarah. Push-ups. There's millions of variations of push-ups. These are the 6 that I think are most appropriate for level 3 and 4, which is only why there's 6 there. We can all think of I can think of at least another 5 types of push-ups that I could have added onto that list. But again, doing push-ups that aren't helping is pointless. So better to keep the program simple and something that they can achieve. They'll feel better about themselves and it's easier for you to monitor. So angry cat push-ups, they're the ones that are just in an angry cat shape. They're the easiest push-ups in the book. Rec kids probably do that one, and some lower level 1 and 2 foundation levels kids. So that's an angry cat position and then just a push-up in a square. Push-ups on knees, that's with straight hips, but on knees, that's like a lady style push-up. They need to be able to get their chest right down near the floor. Then push-ups in front support, toes under, so all feet pointed like the little girl in the picture has got her feet pointed. Push-ups in that nice long shape with chest on the floor. Then we've got push-ups with elbows in. So kids who are a little bit stronger can try and keep their elbows alongside of their body, which is just works their tricep muscle. Push-ups with knees on the box, 30 centimeters. So those are the push-ups that are probably the easiest with an elevated feet position because it's knees on the box, but you still need to maintain the correct head position, chest in, hips open, things like that, and then push-ups with feet on the box to 30 centimeters as well, which just makes things a little bit more difficult. Yes, we can put in handstand push-ups, L handstand push-ups, pike handstand push-ups, but I think at level 3 and 4, until they're able to do that degree of push-ups or somewhere in that range of push-ups, I don't see any point in moving to something harder because they will alter their shape, they will alter their head position, they will cheat on numbers because it's not achievable. So starting with that easy area, and then yes, you can do extensions from there as kids get up. As we do our level 5 and 6 sessions, we'll do more variations of push-ups. Thank you, Sarah. Sliders is the next thing I do. I always make sure there's something slider. There's a whole array of sliders, exercises in this PowerPoint, which everybody's going to get a copy of. I won't go through every individual one. I really like sliders because they're good on upper body, they're good on core, they're really good for body tension, they reinforce really good form, but they do need to be watched because kids who are weaker will compensate with poor body shapes and start cheating on numbers and things, so they do need to be watched. So we've got forward slides, backward slides, elbow slides, rear support slides, mountain climber slides. You can do tuck in and out, pike in and out. You can add a push up, you can do tuck in, slide out, push up. You can put them in all kinds of combinations that you need to. And there's more over on the other page. Thank you, Sarah. So more sliders, rear support slides. Rear support slides are really hard. They're generally okay going forward, but ask them to come backwards and they struggle. So rear support slides, really, really good. Rear support pull through. So the kids are sitting on their bottom with their hands next to them and their feet under the slide, with the slider under their feet, sorry, and they go from that rear support position that you can see in the picture there, and they pull their bottom backwards in a pike through their hands and sit down. Then they slide back through and sit down, and they can do that in sets. You can do it in combinations. You can do it in rows. I have got the description there a little bit with the forward and rear support pull through. Slider, squat and pike throughs. So that's with their hands on a box. So the hands are on a box in a front support. You've got a little channel between your boxes. The sliders underneath your feet. And tuck your legs underneath yourself and slide to rear support. Tuck your legs back underneath yourself and go back to front support. That's an easy one to do. Shoulder extension flexion, that's hands on the slider, on their knees on the floor. You can do that 2 hands on the slider. You can do that 1 hand on the slider, just building up shoulder conditioning. So that's a good kip drill. That's a good kip strengthening drill or bars specific conditioning. Butt slides where they sit on the slider and they slide their bottom through, so they have to hold their feet off the floor, so their knees are up in a tuck. So you're working their abs there, plus also their upper body, moving their hands along the floor. And the straight leg sit-up slides, they generally don't like these because they're very hard. They lie down flat on their back. They put 1 slider under each hand, and their hands are down next to their bottom, and they've got to push the slider, they've got to sit up and push the slider towards their feet, and they can't let their hands come off the slider. So they're actually just like straight leg sit-ups. So little kids find them really difficult, but they're really good for the upper ab area. Really good. Okay, thank you, Sarah. There's millions of slides there. Then I do some sit-ups, dish or V-snaps. Now, some of this dish work I have in my warm-up or in my prep programs. So I usually use my conditioning rotation to do sit-ups or V-snap variations, depending on the strength of the child. And I keep my dish in the warm-up, and then the side and back conditioning, because what we're doing one way, we have to do the other way. So the list on the left is all the sit-up variations. Sit-ups with an arm swing being the easiest. and then V-snaps with the foam. So all they do is they put a piece of foam or a bean bag in their hand or their gloves or whatever they've got. They sit up, they put the foam in their feet, they lie back down, they do a V-snap, grab the foam back out, lie back down, sit up, put the foam in their feet. So they're switching the foam between hands and feet, which makes them think about the control part of the V-snap. And then obviously after that, you can do V-snaps without the foam and get them done much faster. So there is some dish work in there, but I probably don't have dish as much in my conditioning rotations as I put that in the warm-up. There's toe touches, so that's lying on their back with their feet directly up, they're pointing up to the ceiling, and they've got to use their abs to touch their toes like little crunches, and then go for opposite foot so that they're involving their obliques, the muscles along the side of their body as well. Cliff top sit-ups, so with their feet up on a crash mat and their bottom in touching the crash mat, so their hips are at a right angle, just like little crunches. And then we've got crunches themselves where they start in a dish and bend their legs in and sit up and then lie back to the dish. Then we do a twisting crunch, which is a twisting to one side and twisting to the other side. And then all of the things that are in reverse, the reverse dish holds, rocking, kicking, side dish hold, rocking and kicking. I've always got some of these in the program. I obviously don't use all of these in every session, but I rotate my conditioning how I rotate my program. So I do 3 weeks with a set of conditioning and then I change it. It usually gets harder, or I change the exercise a little bit to help with kids who are finding things a bit challenging. I change it, but generally I rotate the conditioning for level 3 and 4 every 3 weeks. If you start with the same conditioning and run it for 10 weeks, then there's a certain point there where they won't be getting strong anymore. So I always make sure I change it every 3 weeks, and I keep it simple. There's usually 6 to 8 things in the conditioning list, and they're things I can easily monitor, and they're things that are easily achievable. So there's a whole list there, a plank as well down the bottom. I'd probably have plank in the warm-up, not so much spending time in the conditioning rotation. I usually do a bit of plank work as well at bars as part of bars specific conditioning. So if I've done some plank work and some dish holds at bars or in the warm-up, I don't double up and put them in the conditioning. I use different exercises in the conditioning. Thank you, Sarah. Well, that brings us kind of to the end there, people. I'm sorry I've gone a little bit over, but that was a detailed program in there that we needed to get through. As always, I'm happy to stay on now and answer questions or chat about anything you would love to chat about in terms of your level 3 and 4 programming. The next session will actually be in 2 weeks, and it's beam and floor. So we're not going to be covering choreography. We're going to be covering level 3 to 4 skill set. And we're going to be looking at circuits, drills, and complex. And we're going to do some lower body conditioning, so some leg work, and also some flexibility, which fits in along with all of the leaps and turns and jumps and things that we're usually doing at that time. So has anybody got any questions?
Yeah, Alexia's asked another question. Will there be sessions covering term 2, 3, and 4 as we covered term 1?
I'm happy to do them if everybody would like an extension on that term 1 program that I did. I would have to chat to Anne and Alex probably and do some planning. If there's a need for that, I'm absolutely happy to do it. I've got a 12-month program written that I use for level 3 and 4. I haven't coached level 3 and 4 as part of the new code, however, so I would need to do a little bit of looking at that and a little bit of tweaking of that program. But if we're looking to do some extension work with terms 2, 3, and 4 at level 3 and at level 4 on vault and bars and beam and floor, I'm absolutely happy to do that. Yes, no problem. No problem. Does anybody have any other questions? There was a couple of questions about jumping to the high bar in emails that I received. Anyone want to talk about jumping to the high bar? More than welcome to talk about it. It is a tricky area. Otherwise, the next session looks to be the 16th of September. Thursday, the 16th of September, we'll be covering beam and floor. No problem at all. But thank you, everybody, for coming today. Thank you, thank you. It was great to see you all. Hope you're all not going crazy without a hairdresser like I am. I'm going to cry soon. And if I can't get my nails done, I'm going to cry. But look, so good to see you all. Keep in touch. Remember, I'm email judges@gymnewsouthwales.org.au. If you'd like me to email any of the programs that I have, even if it's not something we covered today, or if you have a question, you're more than welcome to send me an email, and I'm happy to send out any programs. I've got years worth of level 3 conditioning and level 3 beam and leaps and whatever you guys need. Happy to provide. You just need to send me an email and we'll work it out. No problem.
It seems
Thanks,
like you've given
team.
a whole lot of
Thanks,
thank
Linda.
yous, Linda.
Has anybody got, have you got any questions? By all means, no problem. I'm still here and I love to talk. You know me.
Thanks, Linda. That was really great.
No worries. See you, Sash.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Bye.